rated R. It contains some violence and mild language. Showtime suggests viewer discretion.
The only thing that I find that I have found consistent over all the pictures is that I have Nathan's Hot Dogs every Thursday on the set at around 4 o'clock. And other than that, there's no unifying thread.
Showtime presents a private screening with Rob Reiner, director of A Few Good Men.
I didn't go to film school. I came at this as an actor, and I studied theater when I was in school. So I don't really think visually as I'm working on the script, because most of the films I make are character-driven films. The acting is most important to me. I will let the actors, like I say, dictate where the camera goes, and I try to keep the camera out of the way.
You're the attorney division assigned?
I'm lead counsel, Sam Weinberg. I have no responsibilities here whatsoever.
Come in, please. Have a seat.
In the case of Few Good Men, when I saw it on Broadway, the Cruise character, Daniel Kaffee, is the son of a very famous lawyer, and he's living in the shadow of that famous father, and is frightened to death of stepping out on his own and making his own mark. And I know what that feels like. I've been through that in my life, so it's something that I could connect with. Aside from the emotional scope of the picture and the dilemma, the moral dilemma of when do you follow orders and when do you act on your own, which is what it's set against. It's the main character that attracts me, and that I have to be able to hook into. It's based on an actual incident that happened in Cuba in 1986, and the reason it had come to Aaron Sorkin's attention and why he made a play out of it was that his sister was a member of the JAG Corps, the Navy JAG Corps, and she was assigned to defend one of the Marines who was accused of this Code Red, and they actually used the term Code Red in all the transcripts I read of the trial. In the actual case, there were 10 Marines that broke into a barracks and took this Private Alvarado, his name was. And from what I understand, he did go into a coma. He didn't die, but he went into a coma. And he was, a Marine who was not in favor with the rest of the Marines. When I went to Washington to do some research on the film, I went to the Marine barracks in Washington, and they have a silent drill team there, which I saw for the first time. And I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, the precision was just uncanny. And these were with fixed bayonets. They did these, and with no cadence. I mean, they did these precision things completely silent. And I just said, wow, that's got to be the opening of the film. And as it turns out, they're not Marines that did it, because the Marines wouldn't give us their support in making the film. So we used the Texas A&M drill team, and they're terrific, too. I had a meeting with the assistant to the commandant of the Marine Corps in Washington at the Pentagon, and I made my plea for why they should help us. And I said, you're taking such a narrow view of this film. You're thinking of it in terms of it being a recruiting film. They made the argument that no Marine could ever rise to the rank of colonel with these kinds of character flaws. And it was odd to me, because the day that I was in that meeting at the Pentagon, Ollie North was on the cover of the Washington Post. And I said to them, have you seen the Washington Post today? There's a fellow named Ollie North who did a lot of things that, were not considered proper military behavior. He went outside the chain of command and did something, just the way Jessup went outside the chain of command and flexed his muscles, his military muscles, to do something he thought was right, regardless of how it was done. And to me, it's about guidelines. You know, you fight for what you believe, but you play fair.
Someone has been working and playing well with others, Harold.
Sir, yes, sir.
Tom is what I call a lifer. There are people that you meet that you know will have careers for 30, 40 years. You know, Clint Eastwood and Redford and Paul Newman and Jack Nicholson. These people who you know will just be around forever because they're really good at what they do. Tom is one of those people. What did not come natural for Tom was playing light comedy in a lot of places. He had never done anything like that. He did a little bit in Risky Business, but I basically taught him. I taught him certain rhythms and certain comedy patterns that you need to follow in order to make a joke work. And he's like, you know, a sponge. He's the greatest student you could ever work with. I mean, he would tell me how you want it. How do you say that? How do you tell me again? How do you say that? He has a great ear, and we'd work on this. And by the time we were shooting, he had, you know, he was doing a terrific light comedy performance. For instance, when he says, you know, good night to Joanne at the door, and she starts to apologize, and he says,
Danny,
I know what you're going to say. You don't have to. We've had our differences. I said some things I didn't mean. You said some things you didn't mean.
you disagree with me, and I just, you know, but basically, you like me, and you respect me, and I won't make you say it.
You like me, I won't make you say it.
And she says, I was just going to say, you know, wear matching socks.
I was just going to tell you to wear matching socks tomorrow.
Okay. Good tip.
The other one was when he was all excited about how he was going to nail Jessup on the stand. He says, I'm going to put Jessup on the stand and lead him right where he's dying to go.
Then lead him right where he's dying to go.
And Kevin Pollak says, that's it? That's your plan? And Tom says, that's the plan. He says, how are you going to do it? He says, I have no idea. And I said, the way to do it, Tom, is to do the same exact reading. That's the plan. I have no idea. So that's where the comedy comes from. You can't vary the reading. It has to be the exact same flat reading that you give, and you'll get the laugh.
That's it? That's the plan?
That's the plan.
How are you going to do it?
I have no idea.
Once he started doing it, he understood it. He had a ball. Then he knew, because it feels funny when it finally mulches in. It feels funny, and he did that all the way through the film.
Are you drunk?
Pretty much. Yeah.
My favorite moment is the scene when Tom is drunk and he says, you know, he talks about his father. And, you know, he asks, you know, Kevin Pollak, who plays Sam Weinberg, he says, is your father proud of you? And it's, to me, the most, you know, the most touching scene in the film, and the one that I, you know, obviously relate to more than any of the others.
Is your father proud of you?
Don't do this to yourself.
I'll bet he is. I'll bet he bores the shit out of the neighbors and the relatives. Sam's made law review. He's got a big case he's making. He's arguing. He's making an argument.
There's been a lot of publicity lately about him doing Lestat in Interview with the Vampire. He's going to be great in it. I don't even know what the project is. But if he thinks he can do it, he'll find a way to do it. He will find some way to make that work because he's that good an actor.
Don't wear that perfume in court. Wrecks my concentration.
Really?
I was talking to Sam.
The fact of the matter is, Aaron Sorkin at one point was writing this for TriStar. It was in development at TriStar, and in fact, they did say, you know, you've got these two people in the film, you've got to have a sex scene, and he wrote a sex scene in there. And when we purchased the rights from TriStar, one of the first things we did was get rid of the sex scene, because I said, what does this have to do with this film? This is not a love story. This is not about those people's, you know, relationship. This is about, you know, a court case. And it happened to be that a man and a woman are working together as lawyers on this case, but it's not about sex. I don't get any pressure from the studios because I am the studio. I mean, Castle Rock, which is my company, you know, is the studio that makes the film. So, you know, the only pressure I would get would be from myself, which is to say, you know, hey, you got to have them sleep together. No, I can't do that. It's not right for the film. Don't you want the box office to be good? Well, I do, but it's not right for the film.
John, you're in charge. Santiago doesn't make 4646 on his next proficiency and conduct report. And I'm going to blame you. Then I'm going to kill you.
Yes, sir. Jack Nicholson is one of the great film actors of all time. I mean, he takes his place amongst, the great Spencer Tracy and Bogart and, all the great film actors. So his craft is so well honed now that it always looks effortless. But nothing's ever effortless. This was the first officer that he played that has who carries himself a certain way. There's a certain rigidity with which in the way he sits and the way he moves.
You want to investigate me, roll the dice and take your chances. I eat breakfast 300 yards from 4,000 Cubans who are trained to kill me, so don't think for 1 second that you can come down here, flash a badge, and make me nervous.
We all did Jack Nicholson all day, and including Tom, and Tom did it in the picture.
He eats breakfast 300 yards away from 4,000 Cubans that are trained to kill him.
The biggest challenge for me was to make sure that there were no plot holes. There was nothing in the screenplay that the audience would go, wait a minute, how could that be? One of the big ones was in the play. Markinson, who skips out, goes absent without leave. He commits suicide, just as he does in the play, but he sends them this kind of cryptic note. So I'm saying, well, if a guy's going to go to the trouble of committing suicide, he's not going to leave some cryptic letters. He's going to say, here's what happened.
What do you know?
I know everything.
Was it a code red?
Yes.
If Caffey has evidence that a plane did land in Andrews, and Jessup is saying that no plane ever took off, then that's tantamount to the smoking gun. He can then go in the court and say, Your Honor, we have proof that there was a plane that was set to leave Guantanamo Bay and that Santiago could have been on that plane, and here's the proof. And we felt that that's, any lawyer could win that case. So the trick was to arm Caffey with nothing, to give him nothing but his wits, his intelligence, and his knowledge